The Omicron variant is here. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein or cup of coffee because the Omicron variant is here. Now the media has been playing this up because, well, it'll get the views, it'll get the eyeballs, and people are afraid. People are actually scared. Now I try and live life in a stoic mindset, so what is, what's beyond your control is beyond your control. Do what you can to mitigate your risks and get on with your life. But, other people just love the fear. Let's have a look and see this media release that's just come out from New South Wales Health. And then we'll talk about, some comments regarding this variant that it may be mild. New South Wales Health can confirm urgent genomic testing undertaken today shows 2 overseas travellers have been identified with the new Omicron B.1.1.529 COVID-19 variant of concern. Both passengers came to Sydney from Southern Africa on the evening of Saturday, November 27th. They underwent testing on arrival and tested positive for COVID-19 late last night. The 2 positive cases, who were asymptomatic, are in isolation in the special health accommodation. They're both fully vaccinated. The 2 passengers were amongst 14 people from Southern Africa who arrived on Qatar Airways QR908, Doha to Sydney, which arrived around 7 p.m. Saturday, November 27th. The remaining 12 passengers from Southern Africa are taking 14 days of hotel quarantine in the special health accommodation. Around 260 passengers and aircrew on the flight are considered close contacts and have been directed to isolate. It is an offence not to comply with a public health order and penalties can apply. Close contacts will be contacted regularly and compliance checks will be undertaken. In line with Commonwealth measures, all travellers arriving in New South Wales who have been in South Africa, Lesotho, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Namibia, Eswatini, Malawi, and, I'm going to butcher that one, during the 14-day period before their arrival in New South Wales must enter hotel quarantine for 14 days, irrespective of their vaccination status. All travellers who have been in any other overseas countries during the 14-day period before their arrival in New South Wales must travel directly to their place of residence or accommodation and isolate for 72 hours, pending further health advice. All flight crew who have been overseas during the 14-day period before their arrival in New South Wales must travel directly to their place of residence or accommodation and isolate for 14 days or until their departure on another flight that leaves Australia, consistent with the current rules for unvaccinated flight crew. Anyone who has already arrived in New South Wales who has been in any of the 9 African countries within the previous 14 days must immediately get tested and isolate for 14 days and call New South Wales Health on 1-800-943-553. So, it's here, everyone. The media is going to have a field day. We're already seeing calls for border closures. This is from the Sydney Morning Herald from yesterday. New South Wales and Victoria both moved on Saturday night to introduce 72-hour isolation requirements for all vaccinated international arrivals regardless of their departure destinations. The announcements came as health officials were scrambling to understand the seriousness of the new COVID-19 Omicron variant, with Australia closing all borders to all non-citizens from 9 South African nations. The federal government had earlier warned it was prepared to slap further travel bans on arrivals from overseas. The Sunday Age and the Sun Herald can reveal that several states and territory chief health officers pushed for a temporary pause on all overseas arrivals during a meeting of the Australian Health Protection Principal Committee on Saturday. 2 sources familiar with details of the AHPPC discussion said several state and territory health officials expressed significant concerns about the fact that Australia's recently reopened borders left the country exposed to the Omicron variant. In a sign of how seriously authorities are taking the emergence of the Omicron variant, Federal Health Minister Greg Hunt said that even with 92.2% of Australians aged 16 and over having had a first jab, the government will be implementing additional precautionary border security measures in order to protect Australians whilst more is learnt about the nature and impact of the Omicron variant. However, New South Wales and Victoria went further on Saturday evening, announcing that all travellers who have been in any other overseas country during the 14-day period before their arrival in the state must travel directly to their place of residence. Yes, and we've seen that. So, the rules were unchanged for travellers who are not fully vaccinated, with those arriving still expected to enter hotel quarantine. The Victorian Department of Health said isolation can include private accommodation, such as hotel or holiday rental, provided travellers don't share bedrooms, bathrooms or other facilities with people outside their travelling party. Anyone they are residing with must also self-isolate for 72 hours. The Premier said New South Wales will continue to put community safety first by taking these precautionary but important steps until more information becomes available. Now, this is the concerning thing about all of this, that we're going to have, viruses evolve and change over time. We're going to have more strains. Are we going to end up like the South Park special, guys? There are no known cases of the Omicron strain in Australia. Well, there are today. Asked if the federal government could go further than the temporary suspension of flights from affected countries, Mr. Hunt said, if the medical evidence shows that further action are required, we will not hesitate to take them, and this may involve strengthening or expanding the restrictions. Federal Labor leader Anthony Albanese urged the Morrison government to go further and reintroduce a period of quarantine as soon as possible for all relevant international visitors, whilst an assessment of what the potential health impacts of this variant will be. There you go. There's the difference between the two parties. Do you see any? Let me know if you find it. In reality, this could mean a much larger list of countries, including parts of Europe and Northern Asia. The precautionary principles should apply here, he said. All flights to Australia from 9 South African countries have been suspended for 2 weeks. World Health Organization Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the UN Health Agency, has labelled Omicron a variant of concern. Well, let's have a look at this from the South African doctor that raised alarms about it. So, Omicron variant says symptoms are unusual but mild. Now, hopefully this proves correct. And it is an overreaction from the media, which you just have to expect, guys. Don't let this get you scared. Okay, you just have to learn to roll with the punches. The first South African doctor to alert authorities about patients with the Omicron variant has told the Telegraph that the symptoms of the new variant are unusual but mild. Dr. Angelico Cortez Codsi said she was first alerted to the possibility of a new variant when patients in her busy private practice in the capital of Pretoria started to come in earlier this month with COVID-19 symptoms that did not make immediate sense. They included young people of different backgrounds and ethnicities with intense fatigue, and a 6-year-old child with a very high pulse rate, she said. None suffered from a loss of taste or smell. Their symptoms were so different and so mild from those I had treated before, the doctor said, a GP of 33 years who chairs the South African Medical Association alongside running her practice. On November 18, when 4 family members all tested positive for COVID-19 with complete exhaustion, she informed the country's Vaccine Advisory Committee. She said in total about 24 of her patients had tested positive for COVID-19 with symptoms of the new variant. They were mostly healthy men who turned up feeling so tired. About half of them were unvaccinated. We had one very interesting case, a kid, about 6 years old, with a temperature and a very high pulse rate, and I wondered if I should admit her. But when I followed up 2 days later, she was so much better, the doctor said. The doctor, who was briefing other African medical associations on Saturday, made clear her patients were all healthy, and she was worried the new variant could still hit older people with comorbidities such as diabetes or heart disease much harder. What we have to worry about is now that when older unvaccinated people are infected with the new variant, and if they are not vaccinated, we're going to see many people with a severe form of disease, she said. Well, isn't that what's happening anyway? South African demographics are very different from those in the UK. Only about 6% of the population are over the age of 65. This means that older individuals who are more vulnerable to the virus may take some time to present. And the UK as 2 cases, everyone. So there we go, guys. It's here, and we're having calls for more border closures, like entire border closures. Let's have a bit of a talk about this. What concerns me the most of all of this is the political posturing coming from Albanese, which is calling for tougher closures. If that is what's going to be politically expedient, if that's a sign of where the votes are, what do you think is going to happen moving forward, guys, with these interventions and restrictions? We'll have to see. Hopefully, this is nothing. It's just going to be another variant that we'll deal with. Because there's a lot of them, there's many of them, and they're happening. The media will just jump on it and hype it up. Okay? It's not going to be the end of the world, guys. What's worrying is the political response. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'd like you to check out this video I did quite some time ago. Disease Mitigation Measures by D.A. Henderson. Check it out if you haven't already, guys. It's a 1-hour video, but it's definitely something that everyone should watch. Take care, and I'll see you next time.